Primetime Sports with Scott Alexander is underwritten by Tasc Performance.
Crescent City Steakhouse, a true neighborhood restaurant operated by the Vojkovic family since 1934, is the oldest steakhouse in the city of New Orleans. Serving only hand-cut, prime-aged, corn-fed beef for over 80 years, Crescent City Steakhouse has become a dining destination for both die-hard locals and adventurous travelers who seek traditional, timeless New Orleans cuisine. Crescent City Steakhouse, 1001 North Broad, on the corner of St. Philip, in the heart of New Orleans.
Fall in love with autumn with PJ's new seasonal lattes. Our pumpkin latte brings you all the flavors of a pumpkin pie with hints of cinnamon and nutmeg, like your favorite holiday dessert in a cup. And our s'mores latte with flavors of toasted marshmallows, warm milk chocolate, and graham cracker cinnamon is sure to bring back campfire memories. The PJ's Fall Seasonal Lattes, available at your local PJ's only for a limited time.
So here's the bottom line. Well, it's funny that you say that. Let me tell you. Good evening and welcome to Primetime Sports. Hey, I'm your host Scott Alexander and I have a magical show for you tonight. I cannot wait. Hey, the Pelican season starts next year. I have Dell Demps, the general manager of the Pelicans, is going to join me, and Zach Strief, who made the call last night on Drew Brees' magical number that he got to break Peyton Manning's record. He's going to join us as well, and Tim Grubbs is going to talk all about the Major League Baseball playoffs. But let's talk about the magical night. For the third time I've said magical because it was magical in the Dome last night. If you were there, you know what I'm talking about. The Saints, they came out in full force. Mark Ingram, who hasn't been with the team in 4 games, he showed the Saints faithful what they've been missing. He got 2 touchdowns and he came back with a bang. And the Saints, they mauled the Washington Redskins for their 4-game winning streak, which, by the way, is the 8th 4-game winning streak in Sean Payton's tenure. They've only had 8 in the previous 4 years before that, 4-game winning streaks. But let's start with Drew Brees, because it was his night. The 19-year vet from Purdue via Westlake High School in Austin, Texas, well, he has climbed to the top of the NFL passing list. He eclipsed both Brett Favre and Peyton Manning to go over 72,000 yards. And that's pretty phenomenal considering he couldn't even get a scholarship to the school he wanted to attend in Texas. But we have Zach Strief, like I said, joining us this evening. Of course, he just retired a few months ago after playing 12 years with the Saints. He's got the perfect perspective on Drew's career because they both became members of the organization at the same time, way back in 2006. And like I said, it was a great night for the Who Dat Nation in the Dome. Certainly special for those, as they say, to be in that number in attendance. I can't say as much, though, for the LSU Tiger faithful this weekend who traveled to Gainesville, Florida to face the Gators in the Swamp. Man, it was tough. The Tigers, they looked to be in control for so much of this game, but some costly mistakes and penalties towards the end cost LSU as they fell from the ranks of the unbeaten. And quarterback Joe Burrow, who has shown incredibly impressive leadership this year, well, he picked a bad time to throw his first and second interceptions of the year, both of them towards the end of the game. The first being a pick six that gave Florida a touchdown lead in the final minutes and another to ice the game for the Gators. Hey, LSU, no time to lick their wounds. They got the Georgia Bulldogs, second ranked, coming in, followed by 2 more SEC West foes, Mississippi State and Alabama. Hey, Tulane took it on the chin this week after their great win against Memphis, but UL Lafayette and the Nichols, they both got the big wins. And like I said, Dell Demps is going to be joining us next, right here on Primetime Sports, right after Zach Strief, and then Tim Grubbs later. It's going to be a fun show. Stay tuned. Hey, welcome back to Primetime Sports, and I know I told you Dell Demps, the general manager of the Pelicans, is coming on, and they start their season next week, but he's coming up next because the topic right now is the New Orleans Saints and Drew Brees. The Saints are on a 4-game winning streak, like I mentioned in the open, and Drew Brees, as we all know, just eclipsed the all-time NFL yardage record last night. It was magical to be in that dome. I was so happy, as the Saints say, to be in that number. And I was sitting right next to the guy next to me. His name is Strief, a 12-year veteran of the Saints, and for the first time ever, a guy that went straight from the NFL, not just to the broadcast booth, but to the play-by-play position. I can't stress to you how amazingly hard that is, but he has made the transition beautifully. And here he is today. How are you, my friend?
Doing great. Having a great morning after last night.
I mean, it's kind of funny because I had you right when you retired, and then you got the gig at WWL, the gig that Jim Henderson held for, 3.5 decades, and I had you on there. And I wanted to have you on again because now you've been in this job for 2 months plus. You had a whole preseason. You've gone through 5 regular season games. How's it going for you?
Well, first of all, it's been an absolute blast. I could not have more fun doing it. It's been so much fun to be up there, to get to be involved in the game still without my back and my knees hurting, and I'm a lot less sore when I go to sleep.
Exactly, right.
But it's been amazing. It's been the greatest transition gig of all time, and we're having a blast, and I feel like every week we're getting a little bit better and kind of continue to grow, me and Deuce and all of us up in the booth. So we're having a great time and really fortunate to get to do it.
Yeah, I mean, take us through game 1, which would be Jacksonville. I mean, that's a preseason game. And in preseason, people don't know how hard it is for all of us because you have 100 guys on each roster, and you're really supposed to know them all. And 50 of these guys on each roster, you have really no idea who they are. You're getting to learn them in training camp. But then when the season starts, now you're getting to be, some of these are your teammates. They're actually playing in the game. Yep. But take us through the progression from week 1 in preseason to where we are now after week 5 in the regular season.
I will never forget the first drive of the Jacksonville game. It was really, in all reality, the first time in my life that I had ever called an actual live drive in the NFL.
Right.
And my head was spinning. There was so much information coming from both sides. I didn't know where to put my eyes, where to look, and it was just kind of it was an interesting moment.
You literally
for me.
got thrown into the deep end of the pool.
Yes, we did. They just kind of threw me in, and so that I'll never forget that first drive. What I have learned since is how to slow it down a little bit, what information I really need, what I don't. The fortunate thing in Jacksonville is the press box was in a great area. So we were kind of midfield. We were not high.
It was low.
I didn't need binoculars, which I've learned since. It changes the whole game.
What did I tell you when we sat down? I said, you will never get in a stadium that is this low and easy to see.
We actually, I was very fortunate in the preseason because both of those stadiums, Jacksonville and the StubHub Center in LA, were fantastic viewing points.
Field, right?
Exactly, yeah. And so we were really close. We were at midfield. We had great vantage points. Now, we go back to the dome, and for people who don't know, the press box in the dome is above the top seats. It is very high.
Above the terrace.
And calling a game through binoculars is a totally different experience on top of that. So there's been a lot of learning and adjusting and growing pains. And Jim did warn me of that. He told me it's a totally different animal calling in the Superdome. It's really high and it's difficult. But you learn something every single week. And the difference from week 1 in Jacksonville to the last couple weeks is pretty eye-opening.
To give you an example of how high it is, you know what I'm doing first thing in the morning? I'm literally going to the eye doctor to get new glasses because it's so far I can barely see now, and I'm like, I got to get an update.
It is, I'll tell you, the first preseason game, and like you said, it's hard to call those games
and
from
you have
up
200
there
people on the field.
with all those people on the field. The 4th preseason game, which was in the Dome with the Rams, and they left half their roster in LA. And there's literally not one guy on the field for them that I've ever heard of in my life. So going to the field and back to a flip chart and back and forth is difficult. Getting into these regular season games is a different animal. You just kind of memorize the rosters. You know who's on the field. You know who's going to be out there. It's a totally different animal. But it's kind of good because it got easier when you got to the real games. The preseason is definitely harder.
I wanted to get an update on how you were doing, but there's obviously another reason why you're on this particular show. You have a unique relationship with Drew Brees. You played with him. You came into the Saints the same year in 2006. You played with him for 12 seasons. You're close friends with him. You blocked with him. I have some great pics of you like walking out of stadiums. Y'all are hugging. Y'all are tight. When I look down at this thing and I see this headline of the paper, 72,103 yards. And you were there for many of those yards, and I was next to you during the thing. When you made that call, tell us what was going through your mind last night.
Well, first of all, I think I know I was. I don't know how you felt about it, but I was paranoid the whole first half that we were going to miss something.
Right. No, I was too.
And really, there's about 4 things that are happening last night. There's the yardage record. He's also going to jump Brett Favre in that game. He also needs 4 touchdowns to get to 500. And then there's this Michael Thomas trying to break the reception record too. So there's all these stats, and obviously that's a huge moment in Saints history and certainly in Drew Brees' career. So you want to get it right. So what was fantastic about it, and I think what made it so special, is to have it happen as it did, gave everybody a chance to recognize that appropriately.
Because it was a touchdown.
Because it was a 62-yard touchdown. And for me, and when I listened back to the call, which I was very anxious about, far more than I've ever been nervous about anything in the booth, I was most nervous about making that call right. And you can almost hear it in the call when Traquan breaks a tackle. Monte Nicholson misses the tackle about the 30, and I realize he's going to score. There's an emotional response that kind of triggered, and I think it was just excitement and happiness. He deserves it so much, and he deserved that moment, and that moment was not promised. It very much could have been a 3-yard out route that we're not even totally sure. Right? Was that? Right. Did he need 36? Is it 32? Is it?
Well, just like it was for the Favre thing, because he hit 6 to get right to 99 to tie Favre or pass Favre. So it was magical.
So it was perfect, and I think, you know, for me and I think for Deuce as well, there was just that moment where it's a realization that he got exactly what he deserved, and it doesn't always work like that in life. Sometimes you don't get that, and it was a special moment and something I will never forget. It's one of my most memorable football moments of my entire life.
And it will be forever. I mean, honestly, he just broke one of the sacred records in football. This is almost like the home run record being broke. Hank Aaron when he broke Babe Ruth. Why is he so good? I mean, what makes him great? Because his physical tools, you look at him compared to the Dan Marinos and other great quarterbacks, he doesn't measure up height-wise, but what makes him Drew Brees?
Drew, one, prepares unlike anybody in history. I have not been with everyone in history. There's no way you can do more. And that's why I know that that's the case. There is nothing left to do that Drew doesn't do, that he hasn't done every single day for 13 years in the Saints building. And I know it occurred in San Diego when he was a younger player as well. Everything he's ever gotten was earned through hard work. None of it was achieved on a Sunday. It was achieved Tuesday through Saturday. And I think that's what leads to so much of the disrespect that he gets, is that maybe on Sundays he doesn't have the physical tools. It's not this lightning bolt of ability that you see. It is relentless consistency over 19 seasons, which in my opinion is 100 times more impressive than the guy who was born with a big arm and more athletic ability. I just, for the life of me, can't understand how people who know football don't get and understand that it's far more impressive to do what Drew has done with his physical skill set than what anybody else has ever done in football.
Well, let me step back because Zach came in this evening and he was fired up like many New Orleanians. If you've been watching TV, getting on Twitter, and you're seeing some former NFL players and some supposed analysts saying maybe he's not so good, maybe we're getting too much credit, maybe it's a system thing, maybe it's because he's with Sean Payton. How do you answer to that? You just answered it in a way, but when you heard that he wasn't even in the top 10 with some people's list, who cares? I mean, everybody, it's arbitrary, but it fires you up.
It's arbitrary and it's stupid.
Right.
And to be completely honest, it destroys the credibility of the people who have the nerve to suggest that he's not a top 10 all-time quarterback, that he's really not a top 5 all-time quarterback.
He's top 5 easy.
There's no question.
I mean,
Listen,
easy.
at the end of the day, what is every position in football about? It's about production. Are you productive as a player? Do you make the blocks you have to do? Do you make the tackles? Do you get the interceptions? Do you complete the passes? It just is what it is. That's how that we're all judged. Now, you can make the Super Bowl arguments. You can make those arguments.
But Aaron Rodgers has won Super Bowl, and I never hear him. He's always in that top 5 argument.
And listen, Aaron Rodgers is 100% a talent I think probably the most physically gifted quarterback in the history of football. I don't understand what that has to do with records and with greatness. It's very frustrating for me, knowing Drew, knowing what he goes through, to be openly disrespected by people. I just don't understand it. It's mind-blowing. And I get that people have attachments to their hometown quarterbacks or guys that have attachments to the guy who was big when they were kids. We're in the era that quarterbacks are asked to do more than any position in the history, really, of sports.
Explain that real quick.
It's a passing game, right? The league has completely transitioned itself to score more points.
Right.
You can't win in this league without an elite quarterback. It just is what it is. That's what you need to win. If this is a quarterback-driven league, find me the quarterback who's done more personally to positively affect games than Drew Brees. And I make that argument because I know you can't find anybody. It doesn't exist. So you can go on, and there's guys, maybe Drew's only 3 on one list. Maybe he's only 2. He's in the top 5 of every important passing list in the history of football.
Right.
So don't come to me.
And he's got a Super Bowl. It's not like he hasn't won.
Exactly. And a Super Bowl MVP. Do not come to me and bring up a guy who played in the 60s who handed the ball off 40 times a game.
Bart Starr.
It's a different league. And I'm not disrespecting those guys and their abilities in those eras.
Bart would be considered a game manager right now.
I don't know that he would be considered a game manager. Bart never threw for more than 2,500 yards in a season.
Yeah.
So find me the quarterback whose career high is 17 touchdowns, that threw 152 touchdowns to 138 interceptions, that would even be considered an average quarterback today. So they're putting so much more on the plates of these guys, and nobody in the history of football has responded to it better than Drew Brees.
I thought you were describing Matt Schaub for a second there.
Well, it's about what I am, yeah.
All right, let's talk about the Saints, because you saw the shot in the arm. For all those people that may have forgotten about a guy named Mark Ingram, because Alvin Kamara is putting up just pinball machine numbers early in the season, you saw why Mark Ingram's important to this team last night. Explain. You said something last night to me. You said the way he bruises the defense at the end of the game is very important for the Saints.
You watch early, really the first drive I thought was the most impactful drive that Mark Ingram had in that game. Had some good runs early, had the big screen pass to get down inside the 5 in the opening drive. What he does is he allows this offense to beat up a front. And that pays big dividends when you get later into the game. When you allow your offensive linemen to double-team defensive linemen, to get after just physicality, a 3-yard run or a 2-yard run on the stat sheet might not look like a big deal. But when you get to do that 20 times, when you get into the fourth quarter of a game, when it is on the line, it's a totally different animal. When you allow defensive linemen to play the whole game running into you as you go backwards, pass blocking, or maybe even zone plays where you're all just kind of running, when you lose that physical nature of offensive line play, it does not pay off in the end of the game. Your linemen are more beat up than your defensive linemen. And Mark Ingram has brought that physicality back. And I think what you really saw last night was a defense that just didn't know what or how to take anything away. And listen, it was a joke. I mean, the Saints averaged almost 12 yards an attempt in that game. And obviously, you saw what Drew did. And were the running numbers huge? No, they ended up with 98 yards rushing. They only averaged 3
because of the kneel downs at the end, yeah.
Yes, which I was upset about. But what you saw was a defense that had no idea how in the world to take anything away. There's too many weapons with Mark back, him and Ingram and Michael Thomas, and we're all waiting on these games from Cameron Meredith and Traquan Smith.
You saw Traquan.
So what do you do as a defense now? This offense very much, currently right now, is the most productive offense in Saints history, which is saying something.
It looks like 2011 to me. It's slicing a knife through hot butter.
Absolutely. I mean, they're averaging 36 points a game right now. They're chewing up yards in big bunches. And getting Mark back and having this offense at full strength with the offensive line we have in place, which I think is probably the best that we've had here in Sean Payton's era, the sky is the limit for this offense. They are going to be a nightmare to stop.
I have a question because it hit me last night when you were like, the Saints had gotten over 100 yards rushing, and they were passing at will, but they got over, and then we realized that they were going to do some kneel downs, and you were like, oh my, -1 every kneel down, and it was going to be 98. Do the offensive linemen take pride when they see that 100 in the box score? I mean, because it is an achievement for a team like Saints that pass all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, as an offensive lineman, you're taking, like, your gratification in weird things, right? Like,
Exactly.
Like in that game, if you're an offensive lineman, you walk out of that saying, we ran the ball 32 times. and we passed at 29.
You like that?
That's a good deal.
Yeah.
You know, I saw Dan Rochar, the Saints offensive line coach, after the game, and he's always negative. He gave me the 5 reasons why he was upset with the game that they won by almost 30 points. But
sounds like Nick Saban.
Exactly. But what you really realized is you know, he was like, yeah, we lost the 100 yards at the end there, but really a good performance. They were really good pass protection and running the ball. I thought they did a good front really well.
So far, the Saints have this 4-game winning streak, only the 8th time not only, it's the 8th time in Sean Payton's tenure here, which is a little over a decade, that they've had that. And in the previous 40 years, they've only done it 8 times in 40 years. What is the ceiling for this team as you see it?
I think the danger on this team is this team thrives when they're playing confidently. And you saw early in the season, the Tampa Bay game, and all of a sudden there's some questions of, is this team what we thought that they were? Certainly defensively, there was a question. Maybe this group isn't as good. This group has battled back 2 weeks in a row now. Really
Crazy.
good performances. They're now the 18th ranked defense in the NFL. And what you see, and the same thing happened last year, you saw when that confidence level went up, how good this defense got. With the way the front seven is playing right now, giving up, I don't know now, it's 3-2 going into the game, 3.2 yards a carry, number 1 in the NFL. Now is going to be down probably below 3 because they finished that game at 2.2 a
and
carry.
The pass rush has been amazing.
And the pass rush has been very good. The sky's the limit for this defense. And as we already talked about offensively, if this defense is holding teams around 20 to 25 points, I don't know who's beating this Saints team this year. We've got some big games coming up. We've got the Vikings coming up. We've got the Rams coming up. Baltimore in a couple weeks. This is a tough schedule. But I'll tell you this, the teams that are coming into our building are every bit as worried about us as any team that the Saints are worried about.
No doubt. And follow that up with the Bengals, who are playing great, the Eagles Super Bowl champ, and then the Falcons, who that's always a battle. Yep. And that's going to be right here on Thanksgiving. I can't wait for the rest of the season, my friend. It's been fun working with you. And by the way, I know you said it last time you were here. Your wife loves Shays Delachaise.
We do.
You both do.
We both do. Absolutely.
You're a North Shore and a South Shore guy. That's what I love. You have a place there. I mean, obviously, it's convenient for Saints games for you to stay on the South Shore. And here's Taz Performance. Feel how soft that is.
I know. They're the best. They're the best shirts. The best.
He loves Taz Performance, too? I'm not even putting these guys up to saying that. Appreciate you so much, Zach.
Thank you, Scott.
Man, we are fired up. I can't wait for the rest of the Saints season. They have a break. I wish they were playing tomorrow. Hey, but you know who will be playing in the next couple days? Well, the Pelicans have a preseason game right here in New Orleans. The last preseason game, it's this Thursday, and the regular season starts next week. Can you believe that? Well, we're going to talk about that next because I have General Manager Dell Demps coming up right here on Primetime Sports.
Primetime Sports with Scott Alexander is underwritten by Task Performance.
Embracing New Orleans soul with style and fashion wear from NOLAshirts.com. Show off your love for one of America's unique cities with belts, shirts, and hats in a variety of colors and styles. NOLAshirts.com proudly celebrates the culture and embodies the spirit and determination of the people from the Crescent City. Tradition lives on at NOLAshirts.com.
The owners of the Delachaise Wine Bar on St. Charles Avenue have opened up their newest creation uptown on Maple Street called Chez Delachaise, a new local wine bistro featuring a larger menu of small and large plates, a brighter atmosphere, and full table service. Additionally, patrons can enjoy a large patio out front as well as an extensive wine list offering selections from around the world. It's Chez Delachaise, 7708 Maple Street between Carrollton and Broadway.
Rock and roll will never die. It's old New Orleans, my, oh my. Come on, baby, let's go rock and roll at the city lane. All night, let's roll, let's rock and roll. Baby, do the rock and roll. At Mid-City Lane's the home of rock and roll.
Welcome back to Primetime Sports, and that was so much fun talking to Zach Strief. Hey, man, the Saints had such a big night, and you know what? The Saints are also part of the same organization as the New Orleans Pelicans because they're owned by the Benson family. That's right, Gail Benson took over for her late husband, Tom, and the Pelicans have some high hopes this year. And we have the general manager of the Pels, dealing Dell Demps. Every time that they've needed something to happen, this guy goes out and gets it done. Last year when Boogie Cousins was putting up literally historic NBA numbers, he went down with that torn Achilles. Less than a week later, you had Nico Mirotic coming in and was a key element to getting this team to the playoffs and sweeping the Portland Trail Blazers. And then this summer, when Boogie decided to go to Golden State, you hadn't even heard the news yet, but they had Julius Randle in the fold, and Julius Randle was the Lakers' leading scorer and rebounder last year, and is looking to do some big things with Anthony Davis, Drew Holiday, et al. But here he is, Dell Demps. Welcome back to the show, third time.
Thanks for having me.
Third time's a charm. Does that mean it's the NBA championship this year? No pressure.
No pressure. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves.
Hey, by the way, we just mentioned Drew Brees. We talked to Zach about that, but you were at the game last night. Y'all are all part of the same family. What does that mean for this family, the Bensons and the Saints and Pelicans together?
Yeah, I was there as a fan.
Right.
You know, just watching Drew Brees and, you know, I had a really good seat because, you know, it was a couple minutes left in the half, and you're like, is he going to get it in the first half or the second half? And then you saw Mrs. B come out with Drew's wife and kids, and then, you know, when he threw that pass, I knew he was going to look off the running back and hit the receiver.
That's what he does.
And, man, it was like, man, this the magic and the being in the dome and the chills. And, I mean, it was just an awesome feeling.
I love that y'all go to the Saints games because I know Drew and a lot of the Saints players, I see Cameron Jordan, Mark Ingram, they love going to the Pelicans game. It's kind of a big family here.
Yeah, it's fun. You know, sometimes, like, you know, it's been great. You know, sometimes our guys and, you know, even myself will go over there and we'll watch them in their practices, and they'll do the same over at our place. And, you know, it's really fun sometimes in the offseason when some of the football players come over there and play a little hoops.
Yeah. How are they?
You know, it's
Who's got game? Anybody?
I don't want to put anybody out there, but I'll just say it's very competitive.
You're saying the ones that are really good.
Yeah, you know, Coach Gentry's out there a couple times thinking about, hey, man, maybe, you know, we're talking about two-way players.
Right. They're right next door.
Right next door.
Let's put some shorts on.
Yeah.
By the way, Drew, let's say one more thing about Drew. He's so laser focused. I mean, have you seen anything like that? I mean, is there any NBA player that you've seen that can compare to that?
Oh, man, I think he's in the league by himself. I mean, like, first, he's just a great guy. You know, sometimes, you know, when you talk to him, you know, he talks to you like he's known you for 20 years.
Sure.
You know, I mean, he can make you feel that way. And then, you know, sometimes you see him as a father with his kids, you know, especially up at the facility, you know, throwing footballs. And, you know, sometimes they come over and watch basketball practice, and then you watch him throw. And he makes it just look so easy.
Yes.
That's the part for me. That he makes it.
Effortless.
I mean, those passes are like, I can't get that there. Oh, I guess right there. It makes it look so easy. And from a fan perspective, that's what I like looking at. Cause, you know, I like going to the games and, you know, I like looking at all the receivers. Okay, which one's he going to throw it to? And then he hits this guy, and it's like, wow.
Well, you mentioned kids. I know you're a proud parent. Last time you were here, a little over a year ago, your son Riley was also a guest on the show. He was a star at Newman, and now he's playing at NYU. I know you had another son that played college basketball. Talk about what he's going. Give us an update since he was just here.
He graduated from Newman. He's studying mechanical engineering at NYU. Wow. He'll play on the basketball team as a freshman.
Nice.
And so I felt great because, you know, we actually played the Knicks last week in New York, so I got a chance to spend a little time with them.
Very nice.
You know, we actually got a little workout in at the Garden, which was fun. You know,
really?
That was really fun for me, for him and I to shoot some hoops at the Garden after our shoot around.
Is that? So, so y'all shoot around? Okay.
So yeah, we had shoot around, and then right afterward, you know, he was there, and we got some shots up afterwards.
Very cool. Fun. Very cool. Can you take him still?
No, the last time we played, he beat me, and I'm still upset about it.
I like the competitive fire.
But I always go to overall record.
Right.
I got him on overall record.
That's what dads can do. Because we had him when they were 10, 11. I remember the first time my son dunked on me, I'm like, okay, this is over.
Yeah, overall record's the most important thing. I think I'm like 206 to 3.
Yeah. He's got a long way to go. But you had a head start.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this Pelicans team. There is a buzz around this town, even more so probably than since you've been here. I know they went to the playoffs the year Monty left and Alvin came in, but there was a coaching change, so it had a different feel to it. What's your take going into the season with this team?
You know, we obviously want to build off of last year.
Sure.
But we also know we got a lot of work to do. I think we have the possibility to be better than we were last year, but I also understand that the NBA is better than it was last year. There's so many good teams right now. This is as competitive as I've seen the NBA. there's not many teams rebuilding.
It was pretty competitive last year, though.
And well, you know,
I mean,
it was, but now, you know, Dallas has taken a step up. You know, Memphis was injured last year. Those guys are come back. You know, Phoenix gets the #1 pick. You know, Sacramento, they're growing. Denver was right there on that edge last year.
Yeah.
And all those teams. Now the Lakers,
by the way, picked up somebody.
Yeah, they got a guy. You know, they got a guy or two, a guy we had and a guy from the East.
LBJ.
Yeah, and so I said the NBA is just, it's there's no off nights. You know, every night, if you don't come ready to play, you know, you're going to lose. And each game is going to be important. You know, last year, you know, we were fortunate to finish tied for 4th. But, you know, you lose 3-4 games and you're out the playoffs. And, you know,
it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And understanding that
the
entire season is going to be so important.
You know, take us in. I remember asking you last time you were here, and I just got it out of you. You said, it's pretty cool to be a general manager. And you're like, yeah, it really is. Take us into a moment like when Boogie goes down. You know he's out for the season, and you're trying to think, what can I do to prove this team, to possibly get them in the playoffs? What's going on in your mind? Take us through like the next couple days on how the phone lines start firing up and what's your thought process going through it?
You know, that was, I still think back to that night because I think we had just won like 8 out of 9.
4 in a row, 8
and we had just beat Houston, who had the best record in NBA at the time, on ESPN. We had the game in hand, and I remember, you know, it looked like we were just closing it out, and I was sitting next to David Booth, our director of player personnel, and he said, that didn't look good on Boogie. I was like, huh? And, you know, when he didn't get up, and so I went to the locker room looking for him. He wasn't in the locker room, and I found him in the hallway, and I was like, oh, man. And he just gave me that look. And, you know, he's one of those guys that, you know, I remember we got hurt in Utah. He said, I'm fine. And, you know, I look at his ankle, it's swollen. He said, I'm fine. But on this one, I could tell. Yeah. And, you know, it was tough because, you know, we had just felt like we accomplished something. We felt like we just found our way. And the locker room was so down. Right. Biggest win of the season, and we're down. And, you know, it was interesting because, you know, Mr. B was still with us at that time. And he came in the locker room. Wow. And he was lifting everybody up. So was Mrs. B.
Tom Benson and Gail.
Yeah. They were like, hey, it's okay. We're going to be fine. And, you know, and then you put your GM hat on. You know, you know, I went to the hospital with DeMarcus. And, you know, we were there probably to about 1 in the morning. Wow. And, you know, that's when we got the confirmation of the news. But, you know, then we figured, you know, I want to make sure I give the coaching staff a lot of credit. You know, we had to regroup. We had to change the way we play.
Yes,
we had to make some adjustments. Yeah. And then you got to give the players credit because they executed the plan. And, you know, and it was really fun to watch because, you know, we were having a good season. We hit adversity, and we figured it out together. And that was the best part of it. We did it together.
Dell, you not only had the moment Boogie went down, you said they were hot. They had won 4 in a row plus 8 out of 9, but they went on since that moment, and they pulled in Nico. You had not only the longest win streak in franchise history, you had also another streak that tied the longest. You had the 2 longest win streaks after Boogie got hurt. That's a magical, perfect storm happening right there. How did it happen?
You know, I started with the coaching staff. You know, I thought that they really, you know, we had to be really honest with ourselves. And, you know, obviously Nico coming in was a big part of that. And then the players, you know, I thought Anthony took a bigger role. And it was great to see that. You know, it was great to see Drew I want to say finally, Drew really.
He blossomed.
He did. Yeah. That was the word I was looking for. And, you know, and he was having a good season all year, and he just took it to another level. And then our defense really picked up. Our team defense became better. And, you know, obviously people talk about the pace, but the defense became better. And I think guys found a rhythm. And even a couple games we lost, you still felt good about the losses because we were playing the right way. And we figured if we just kept playing this way, we were going to give ourselves a really good opportunity.
Well, going forward this year, you didn't waste any time either. I'm assuming you must have gotten word that Boogie was not going to stay in free agency, and I don't want to talk about him anymore, but I want to talk about the future, what's going on. You pulled Julius Randle in, and I'm like thinking, how the heck did we get Julius Randle?
He's a guy that we've always felt like would strive in our system. And it's funny, like when he finally signed the contract, I said, man, I've been chasing you for years.
Wow.
And
that had to make him feel good, too, that he wanted.
And first of all, you know, just spending time with him, he's a great guy. You know, he has this huge smile. He's a family man. his wife and his son, seeing them together, you know, it's fun to watch.
Yeah.
You know, and his son,
Yes.
you know, is running around, and he looks like a little version of him.
That's funny. That's funny.
But then to see this guy with this big smile and this huge heart and this kindness get on the court and play with that intensity, it's like a switch, and you're like, whoa, you just saw this guy just, you know, go from Clark Kent to Superman. You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
And you know, I think him playing with Anthony and Nico and that dynamic is going to be really fun to watch. And I'm really excited about our bigs. And, you know, we got a couple young bigs in Czech and Okafor.
Yeah,
that are going to also go find their way
Jalil
out there.
Okafor, the former third pick of the draft, is in the fold. A lot of people that are casual fans might not even know that.
Yeah, and, you know, I said, you know, he's playing with a chip on his shoulder. You know, he wants to prove to the world that, you know, he is worthy of being a top pick in the NBA draft. And, you know, he's been a top player all his life. And, you know, I think with us, it may take a little time, or it might come right away. I'm not sure yet.
Right.
But I think, you know, he is a talent, and, you know, we're going to try to find a way for him to help us win games.
You mentioned the heart, and you mentioned the family, man. There's certain characteristics when you're going out and looking for a player, if you have an either-or situation, that you're looking for the locker room?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you got to have good basketball players. The bottom line is good basketball players
play.
win games. And,
Yeah.
But then there's an element of chemistry and teamwork and good people. And, you know, when you come to work every day, it's important to come to work and like the people that you're working with, like the people that you're surrounded with. And, you know, I feel lucky. Actually, I tell people now, I still pinch myself. I do.
You said it last year. Yeah.
And I'm living the dream. I have the dream job. I'm fortunate to work with good people. You know, Mr. B was, you know, he was a phenomenal owner. Mrs. B has been outstanding. She's been great. Mickey Loomis, Dennis Lauscha. You know, I feel lucky. You know, that I have a supportive group. And then, you know, it goes with our coaching staff and front office. And you know, I said I'm lucky. I really am.
Dell, I mean, I know coaches and general managers try to stay as far away as trying to look at the media, but we all have ears and eyes. You hear stuff. And when the times were tough and you're hearing the negativity coming from the media and the fans, how do you get through that?
You got to put your big boy pants on, you know what I mean? This is hey, if you don't want that type of scrutiny, this is not the job for you. You know what I mean?
But it's still you're human. It's still got to hurt some, huh?
I call it good problems. I don't have real problems. There's some people in this world that have real problems.
Good point. Good point.
And I said, I feel lucky. You know, a bad day for me is when we lose a few games. But it hurts. Don't get me wrong. It does hurt.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I want to keep things in perspective. And, you know, we're giving it our all. And, you know, when our group is sitting there and, you know, we're thinking about the team and we're trying to put a team out there that this New Orleans community is going to love and want to come support, because, you know, the playoffs last year was that feeling of that buzz. And, you know, Game 3 versus Portland, when you walked in that arena, I mean, it was like, wow. You know, I mean, you felt it.
It was unbelievable.
It was unbelievable,
Yeah, it
from
really
the
was.
intros to the first baskets to the dunks to the shots, and even against Golden State. I mean, you felt it.
You did.
Felt that,
I was at
that
all those
buzz.
games. Yeah.
And you want more of that.
Right.
And that's what motivates us, is that we want to get back there. We want to make that, you know, a common thing. And so that's what we're working for.
We talked about the front court. You have a lot of nice pieces, but the back court's interesting. And by the way, another great under-the-radar signing you had a year ago was Ian Clark, and then you re-signed him, and now you have Frank Jackson coming back into the fold, who has been hurt his whole rookie year last year. We all know what Drew Holiday can do, maybe the best two-way guard in the league, probably so. And then you have Elfrid Payton, who just came in, a New Orleans native. Talk about how that mix and rotations are going to work.
You know, I'll start with Elfrid. You know, he was our first meeting in free agency.
Yeah.
You know, we met with him at midnight Eastern time, and, you know, many people know he's from the West Bank. But the first thing we told Elfrid was, you know, we didn't care if he's from the West Bank, we didn't care if he's from West England, West Germany, West Africa. We felt like what he does fits what we want to do. And we showed him video, and like I think he's going to have a breakout year.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about him. I think he's going to flirt with some triple doubles. I don't want to put that out there too fast, but I think he has that skill set to do that in our system. And his work ethic has been unreal. You know, in the summertime coming in, and it's rare he's not in the gym twice a day.
Wow.
That's the rarity if that happens. And so he's committed, and, you know, we're excited about him. You know, Ian was a big part, and I don't think he got enough credit for our success last year.
Ian Clark.
Yeah, Ian Clark, I'm sorry. His role off the bench last year after the All-Star break, you know, he's averaging about 10 points a game after the All-Star break, shooting around 50%, shooting 40
And
from
he had that
three.
experience with playoffs, being with
He
Golden
had
State
big
the year
shots,
before.
He was a big part of our success last year.
Yep.
And I think he found the comfort level right as the season went on. I think it took him a little bit
That's
of time.
him in the back of the picture. That's actually Zach LaVine dunking. But that's number two.
We got to work on it. We got to work on the people in the production room.
Well,
we Pelicans highlights on here.
We had a bunch of them. Our thing blew up though, but we had a bunch of me and Clark.
Yeah, all right. Are you trying to show our defense right here?
Yeah, we're showing
Anthony?
defense.
You're showing
That's the key-
defense.
that's the key to the
That's
win.
going to be the key to our success this year is our defense.
Right.
There we go, right there.
There he is. So, but Drew Holiday in the mix now. Frank Jackson, I think a lot of people are wondering how is he going to fit in. This guy was a McDonald's All-American MVP. Probably would have been an easy first rounder had he not been injured at Duke, and you got him early in the second round.
Yeah, I don't want to put too much pressure on Frank.
Right.
You know, I think obviously that he's a talented kid. He's tough. First of all, he always walks in with that huge smile, and
You love the smiles.
He's a nice guy, but he is talented and he's aggressive, and you know he's going to have his learning curve just like any other NBA player would. But we don't want to put too much on him. You know, it's tough for young players to come into the NBA and have immediate impact. And the good thing for Frank is he's playing with a veteran group. You know, he's playing with a lot of guys with playoff experience, and they've been very, very, very kind to him and helping him on his path.
Last thing, what's been the highlight of your career here in New Orleans?
The highlight being in New Orleans.
Do you like living here?
I love living here. That's one of them.
New Orleans,
I work
love
with
to
great
hear that,
people.
by the way. You know that.
Oh man, I'm a. You know, people see me around the town all the time. I ride my bicycle.
You ride your bike, yeah.
I'm on coffee shops and restaurants, and I love it here. I don't like it here. I love it here, and you know, I'm fortunate to work with great people. And it's like I tell people this. You know, we're like a local team playing on a national stage.
We really are. We really are, and I love it.
That's what it feels like.
And I love that the team and the Saints and the Pelicans, they all live in town now. It used to be everybody was kind of secluded and going out as far away as they could get back in the old days here, but everybody is kind of integrating themselves in the city, and New Orleanians love that.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, like, the people are unreal. And, you know, the fun part sometimes, you know, you go sit in a restaurant and you meet someone and they start telling you about, you know, history of the city that, you know, you don't find in history books or on the internet, or personal stories about what happened during this storm or, you know, during this time. And that's the kind of stuff that makes a place special.
Well, I know you like to eat a lot of good restaurants, and I know this is one of your wife's favorites as far as yours. Shays Delachey's. Shays Delachey's.
Yes, sir.
Hey, even general managers get excited when they get something. And this is, by the way, are you aware of Tasc Performance shirts?
I am aware of Tasc. I know it's a local brand. I know they have a store
Phenomenal.
on magazine.
Feel how soft this is.
Yeah, I actually have a few of these.
They
have a store
so you
on
don't need
Magazine
this one
Street.
then? Tasc Performance. So you do wear a couple of them.
I will wear this. I like to support local businesses, so I wear this at one of the local workout gyms here in New Orleans. And
It's even more so. I think it's actually, honestly, and I'm trying to be unbiased. I am New Orleans, but I think it's better than Under Armour. I think it's better than Nike Dry Fit. It just feels better on my skin. No polyester whatsoever. All bamboo cotton.
When you wash it, it keeps its shape and keeps its size.
Keeps its shape.
Like big guys, you know, we need that. Sometimes you wash
strong.
shirts and they shrink.
Those muscles are popping through that shirt.
This keeps. I have a green one actually, and I like this one. I like this gray, this charcoal gray. I appreciate it.
So good to see you. I appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
I'm sorry for being a pest for the last year, but please forgive me.
No. I wanted to come back here because I want to make sure that I said that, you know, we appreciate you. We appreciate your support. And like I said, you've been a great guy for us and a great friend.
I love the Pelicans. I do. And you know
what?
what?
You can hear it in your voice.
All right. Let's go. Let's do it this year. We're ready. We're excited. That is Dell Demps, man. What a show we've already had. Zach Strief, Dell Demps. But by the way, I know we don't have Major League Baseball here, but the playoffs are here, and I have the Baby Cakes announcer. That's right, Tim Grubbs. We're not going to talk Baby Cakes right now. We're going to talk Major League Baseball playoffs. There's only 5 teams left as of right now, and we're going to talk about those in the NL and AL Championship Series coming up next, right here on Primetime Sports. Welcome back to Primetime Sports. We've had a whale of a show so far. I mean, Dell Demps, how open and candid was he just now? And Zach Strief was fired up about Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints. But hey, Major League Baseball is one of my passions, and there's nobody better in this town to talk to than my next guest. He is the voice of the New Orleans Baby Cakes, but more important than that, right now for this particular segment, he's talking MLB with Timmy G. That's Tim Grubbs. Welcome back to the show, buddy.
Great to be here. Great time of year. You know, you mentioned football in full force. Baseball postseason, every game matters.
So great right
Basketball's
now.
about to start. This is really.
And if you like hockey, I know you're from Pittsburgh.
Right.
You're a Penguins fan, I'm assuming. You got that too?
Yeah, I actually watched them play the other night.
Yeah.
They took on the defending Stanley Cup champion Capitals. So I've only seen one game so far, but no, it is a great time of year.
You were growing up. You had the Pirates, obviously the '79 championship when you were very young.
Right.
And then obviously the great Barry Bonds, Andy Van Slyke, Bobby Bonilla teams that just fell short to the Braves a bunch. But there's a lot of baseball history in your background.
Absolutely. No, baseball was my number one sport. You know, you mentioned, even though I grew up in Pittsburgh when they were winning 4 Super Bowls, a lot of that was very young.
Right.
The early years for me, I remember the Pirates winning the World Series, but then I remember some very lean years.
Lean years.
The 80s were not very kind to the Pittsburgh Pirates, but by the end of the decade, they had turned it around.
They were phenomenal.
Jim Leland came in, and the early 90s was a great run. Probably should have won one, but, Francisco Cabrera and the Braves had something to say about all that.
I hate to say that's my home team, the Braves, even though I'm from New Orleans. I did work with them for a while. But you know what? The Braves, we're here centrally located. And I grew up an Astros fan and a Braves fan because I had relatives in both areas. So I would always go to a series or two in the Astrodome and then on to Fulton County Stadium in Atlanta. So neither were very good back then, but
Right.
I rooted for them as my home team. So being a New Orleanian and this is a New Orleans audience for the most part, a lot of Baton Rouge, Lafayette, the Gulf Coast, the Astros are kind of a home team for a lot of people, and they are the defending World Series champions, and there's no let up in sight. It looks like they just swept through, and they're going to the next series into the ALCS.
Oh, it's been impressive. You know, if you would have had me on the show last Tuesday, I was concerned. You know, I mean, obviously...
with the Indians.
Yes, I thought the Indians were probably the hottest team. They had such an easy schedule down the stretch because their division was determined maybe in June.
Right.
So they didn't have any real serious games. I thought their bullpen of Cody Allen and Andrew Miller and Brad Hand, I thought that was going to be really difficult. Correa was coming off of an injury, and I thought Houston looked vulnerable, even though as good of a year as they've had.
Right.
And I know people are like, well, wait a second. They ended up with more wins than they did last year.
Right.
The only reason why it took till the last week of the season to clinch the division is because their division was much better. And you had Oakland and Seattle that were contending for the wild card spot. But I was really concerned about how things looked for the Houston Astros, but I am not concerned anymore. They look like they're ready to roll.
I was concerned too, except when I looked at the Indians' record outside of their own division, which is a very porous division, was only 500.
Right.
And when you looked at that, you're like, okay, I feel better about their chance. You see Jose Altuve right there, Bregman. You see all the weapons the Astros have. They're a tough out, and they're going to have. I'm not saying I don't know who's going to win the Yankees. There's only one series left in the divisional playoffs, and that's the Yankees who got routed last night 16-1. They're playing again tonight in Yankee Stadium with CC Sabathia. But let's just assume that maybe the Red Sox, all they have to do is win one of these next two. If they win, you're talking about an Astros team which looked to be a prohibitive favorite, playing a team that has the most wins in their franchise history, one of the best seasons in Major League Baseball history. Let's just assume that. How would that series turn out to you?
I think Houston's the better team, especially now watching them play.
Right.
You know, but
They have swagger.
They have swagger. Houston looks good. You know, I mean, Bregman and Correa. They on the big stage. You know, I didn't know this time last year. I wasn't sure this team was going to be able to do what they did. But look what they did, and they're back. And you know, those guys in the big moment, they seem to deliver.
Well, we have Yankees, Red Sox, and I love the history. I love the logos together. I love it all because this is the series you want. I wish it was a 7-game series.
Sure.
I really do. I still
Even though
kinda
yesterday's game was a blowout, that was one of those. That's going to happen when you have powerful lineups like the Red Sox and Yankees both have. Things like that can happen.
I would
and a
take
game
the
can go
Yankees
upside down.
tonight. I mean, usually when you get embarrassed like that as a professional, particularly when you have studs like they do, you have Sabathia on the mound, and this game's starting in a little while. People are like, well, they're already down 6-0. Great move. But the fact is when you have Judge and Stanton, you're never going to be out of a game. Let's go over to the National League. two series that are already over.
Right.
The Dodgers looked unbeatable. They didn't give up a single run to the Braves in the first two games. The Braves got lucky. They had the grand slam, the youngest ever to hit a grand slam in Acuna. Acuna. And then also they ended up winning that game on a home run by Freddie Freeman. But the Dodgers are the Dodgers, and they have one of the best lineups I've ever seen.
You know, it took them all the way to the end to figure out that division, and they struggled for most of this season.
Took them an extra game.
Yeah, it took them an extra game. They really struggled in April. People thought, I don't know if it was a World Series hangover. I don't know. You know, when you play these games on a big stage like we do in October, and they played so many of them last year, I felt like it did. You know, when they got to April this season, that they were like, no, this is just, we got 162 of these to figure out. They were really slow starting, but they really look great now. A guy like Max Muncy, who's been so important to their lineup, he was in AAA to start the season. I broadcasted one of his games earlier this year.
I'm going to say this. Max Muncy is a good example of a guy that if you're a casual baseball fan, you only tune in during the playoffs.
Right.
This dude hit over 35 home runs. I mean, he is a force, but their entire lineup, when you look at, they got Manny Machado from the Orioles, one of the best young players in all of baseball.
Absolutely.
I mean, the dude has no weak spots in his swing. And then you just go from Bellinger, the Rookie of the Year last year. The lineup is stacked from top to bottom. Yasiel Puig is probably the weakest link in that entire lineup, and that guy can hit 35.
Oh, and he's having fun. You know, I mean, Yasiel Puig has this much fun. You could see it, and I think it radiates to the whole team. And, you know, in the past, people always ripped Kershaw. Is he a big game pitcher? Is he going to be able to get it done? And I think the Cardinals were in his head a little bit. And I think that was the reason why he struggled when he was playing St. Louis in the early postseason. But, you know, when he's on regular rest, that was the other thing. The Dodgers were pushing
3 days
him.
Rest, yeah.
The Dodgers always pushed him back then. They don't have to do that anymore.
Well,
and I think that's what sets up the stage here for a Milwaukee team that people don't know a whole lot about, but a Dodgers team that is looking like they're ready to defend that National League pennant.
Well, let's talk about that Milwaukee team, because a lot of people don't know about them, but they are on a streak. They haven't lost in 3 weeks.
Right.
I mean, they're on like a 12-13 game win streak right now. How are they doing it?
This is a team that came very close to making the postseason last year.
Right.
It came all the way down to the end to get that wild card. The Cubs ended up beating them out for the division, but they were in it all the way until the final games. Then they went out and made 2 huge acquisitions this winter. I mean, one of them being a guy that is a former Zephyr for a couple of days in Christian Yelich, who's probably the National League MVP.
Think about that. He's probably the National League MVP. I mean, that's Christian Yelich for average fans may barely have heard of him, but he was a Zephyr for a couple of days. And, you know, you take a look at what some of those Marlins guys have done since they've been traded. You know, you've got a big name in Yelich, potential National League MVP. We all know what Giancarlo Stanton did because he went to New York. Yeah.
You know, those guys are going to be big on the big stage here this fall. And, you know, that Brewers team, they are solid. And that bullpen is huge.
Yeah.
I mean, the Rockies scored 1 run in that series.
And I thought the Rockies had a good lineup, too.
They did.
They look like little leaguers.
They really did. They just blew them out of the water. Now, I don't think the Brewers are good enough to do that to the Dodgers. They could beat them, but I don't think they're going to blow them out of the water like that. I mean, I think we're in for a really fun NLCS and an ALCS, no matter who it is, whether it be the Red Sox or the Yankees.
Well, let's look ahead real quick. Let's get the crystal ball going. You have 5 teams left, 3 in the American League. And after tonight, it might be just 2. So if you're watching this on Thursday, you're like, what are you talking about? So going forward, the Brewers, they're on a 13-game win streak, and they're going to be considered the underdog.
They are the underdog, even though they got home field advantage.
Right.
But I just think people don't know them. You know, they're the Milwaukee Brewers. They're a small market. This is their first year in the postseason in a few years. So you don't know those names.
They know Ryan Braun. That guy right there is probably the biggest name they have.
Right. And he came up huge in that 1-game playoff against the Cubs.
Yes, he did.
Had a huge hit and knocked the Cubs, you know, which was huge. I mean, I don't know if people realized how big that game was, because now all of a sudden you go from the number 1 seed in the National League to playing in a wild card game, and look what happened to the Cubs in a span of 48 hours. They were gone.
I mean, they were out after 1. Sorry, Gus. Moving forward, the American League, though, you got, let's just say, the Astros. You think they're going to be the favorite over either team?
Well, I don't know if they'll be the favorite, because the Yankees and the Red Sox have that Northeast, that I-95 bias.
Sure.
You know, obviously, ESPN and all that.
But for people that know baseball.
And they had 108 wins. I mean, the Red Sox did, and the Yankees. But I think Houston is the better team, and I think it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Houston, the one problem, and you wonder when you sweep a team like they did, and they put Cleveland aside really quick. There's a 5-day layoff You know, can these guys stay? And I know they have sim games and they do all these things to try to keep
But it's not the same.
It's not the same thing.
It's not the same
You
thing.
don't really want necessarily a long layoff in baseball.
Well, I don't want a long layoff for the next time you come, because it's always fun talking
It's great.
MLB with Timmy G. I got a couple gifts for you. We should just give the gift certificate. We got Shays de la Shays. Bring your wife for a couple glasses of wine, a little nice meal, and then this is a new thing.
Yes,
since
it
you've been
is.
here. Fill this up.
Very nice. I know this product.
You know
It's good
Tasc
stuff.
Performance?
Tasc Performance. I have a Tulane shirt.
Oh,
just
you,
like
with the
this.
Tasc?
With the Tasc.
You like it?
It's nice.
Yeah, it's really nice. Feel that again.
It's great.
Yeah.
In this heat and humidity that we have down here, this is a good product.
Good to see you, bro.
Great to have you. Great to be on, and I'm looking forward to a great series.
And I'm looking forward to next year's baby cake season right here in New Orleans. That's right, they're going to be here. Hey, we're going to come back next week. Man, we're going to keep loading this thing up. We're going to talk more about LSU going in post-Georgia game. Obviously, they play this week. And T-Bob Hebert is going to come and talk about the rest of the season, Mississippi State, Alabama, Texas A&M, etc. And that's going to be a couple other great guests as well. Stay tuned next week right here on Primetime Sports.
The owners of the Delachaise Wine Bar on St. Charles Avenue have opened up their newest creation uptown on Maple Street called Chez Delachet, a new local wine bistro featuring a larger menu of small and large plates, a brighter atmosphere, and full table service. Additionally, patrons can enjoy a large patio out front as well as an extensive wine list offering selections from around the world. It's Chez Delachet, 7708 Maple Street between Carrollton and Broadway.
Rock and roll will never die. It's old New Orleans, my oh my. Come on, baby, let's go rock and roll at the city lane. All night, let's both let's rock and roll. Baby, do the rock and roll at